and professional strippers. Okay, so I don't think we could do a podcast on Glock without talking about the Sigma.
Smith&Wesson Sigma?
Smith&Wesson Sigma. Do you know what a Sigma is?
No.
Do you know what a Sigma is?
That was actually my first firearm I ever purchased.
Yeah, the the SDVE, right?
Yeah, which was
same
what
thing.
Came after the Sigma.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remarketed, rebadged.
That was the gun that did not work very well for me.
Yep, absolutely.
Had nothing but problems with that since the day I bought it and until the day I sold it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That's the one where a bullet got stuck in the barrel, so you guys used a taper punch to punch it out until the punch got stuck in the barrel. That's true, right?
I don't see an issue.
That would be accurate.
Yeah,
That
that
was
gun.
not one of our vital moments.
Yeah, that gun got sold to somebody too, didn't it?
Yes, that did get sold.
Well, all you did is recrown the barrel, pretty much.
Yeah, that's all it
taper
was.
punch, yeah.
Just recrowning it. Safety third. So anyways, we have to cover the Sigma and the very murky lawsuit that followed. Remember that old round that nobody uses anymore called the 40 Smith&Wesson?
Yeah.
Anyone remember that? That's going to trigger a lot of people. Like, I can just hear the comment section just exploding.
I think 40 cal is pretty much. I think that argument's pretty much been had.
Dude, even
though I need to buy a 40 cal.
Why? Why would you need to buy a 40 cal?
Because during the pandemic, what ammo was everywhere, and it was still cheap.
Honestly, that's my stance on it. I think caliber debates are stupid unless it involves pricing and availability.
Yep.
So fair enough. So 40 Smith&Wesson was obviously the brainchild of Smith&Wesson, who was responding to the FBI's request for a round with 10mm-like performance, but could be retrofitted to a smaller, high-capacity handgun. This request was in response to the 1986 Miami shootout, in which the FBI took significant casualties. I'm not going to go over that. That is an extremely well-documented shootout. Like, you don't...
There's been plenty of people who have debated that.
Straight up, and it's just not even worth it. So Smith&Wesson, with the help of Winchester, came up with the 40 Smith&Wesson cartridge, which the FBI really liked. They found it acceptable in all their tests, chose it to adopt as their new caliber of choice. Smith&Wesson planned to launch this caliber alongside one of their new handguns, the 4006, 4006, 4006. I just call it the 4006.
Yeah,
Is that how it goes? Okay. So you would think Smith&Wesson would have it made. You would think it's in the bag. They were definitely going to get the business with the FBI. They were definitely going to sell the FBI their guns. It was all going to work out great, right? That's what I would sound. That's what it would seem. Yeah, Gaston had other ideas. So Gaston obviously knew about the new caliber coming and was able to source some testing while at SHOT Show that year. When I read this, it said that he went over to the Smith&Wesson booth and grabbed a handful of ammunition. They just had live rounds, apparently, hanging out, just chilling out with all these guns at SHOT Show.
Don't mind if I do.
Yeah, safety third. Safety third.
Yeah.
What is gun safety?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, SHOT Show, all the guns are pretty much deactivated anyway.
Sure. I still wouldn't want live ammo.
No, but I mean...
It just takes that one person.
That's all it does.
Well, we know you've been there. So when you were there, was there ammunition there also?
No. And some of the guns were like zip tied and stuff. Like, I'm sure many of them are deactivated, but I didn't know ammo. And I'm pretty sure that's a strict
Well, like
thing.
even if like somebody like debuting a new like hollow point cartridge or
Well,
I think they do cutaways.
Yeah, or dummy rounds or something like
yeah.
that. There's definitely ways around it. Yeah, so he grabbed a handful. While he was evaluating, right? He was looking at it and noticed that he could easily, cheaply, and quickly adapt the Glock 17 to shoot it. So in short order, the Glock 22 was born. And a week before Smith&Wesson released their new handgun with the new 40 Smith&Wesson cartridge, Glock launched the Glock 22. This alone was not a huge deal. What was a huge deal was that Glock had prepared for this. He had thousands of Glock 22s already made, so they were able to sample and supply police departments, most notably the FBI. Smith&Wesson drugged their feet on the production of the 4006. Not to mention, it was based on an old-school metal frame design, had a slide-mounted safety.
Well, I mean, the old school, third gen they call it, metal guns, they're heavy as hell.
They have the rail. They've got the rail on them.
Yeah, they're tanks.
Correct.
They're durable, but goddamn, they're
can
fucking
you imagine
heavy.
carrying that on your hip all day?
Or concealed wearing a suit as an FBI agent.
Yeah.
No way, man. So, yeah, it held less rounds of ammunition, too. The FBI loved the Glock 22 and immediately adopted it.
But didn't they have problems with the Glock 22?
Frame
Cracking?
That's when they went from 1 pin to 2 pin up front, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah.
And that's also, there was something around the locking block.
I think those are cracking, too.
Nowadays, they're metal injection molded, and they're pretty tough, but I think back then they had issues.
Yeah.
And they also, so the recoil spring on a 17 is, correct me if I'm wrong, 14 pounds, and I think all the 40 cals are 17 pounds.
thought they're all 17.
Maybe
I don't know.
17. I don't know.
I don't know.
I thought there was a difference. Due to service life, I thought there was a difference. But anyways, so the FBI loved it and adopted it. Glock used Smith&Wesson's own ammunition to steal their business from the very government agency that helped them make it. How gangster is that?
Yeah.
Like, I would be... So Smith&Wesson freaked out. They did a lot of things wrong here. But it's still, regardless of what Smith&Wesson did wrong, it's still an impressive move by Glock.
So, like, they didn't have a patent? Well, they might have had a patent on the cartridge.
They sure did.
But they did have a patent on...
Who could shoot it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, how could you have a patent on a...
You can't patent use.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, Smith&Wesson got absolutely boned. And they definitely
I'm
knew
sure
it.
Smith&Wesson tried to take him to the patent court on it.
Oh, they did some real dumb stuff. So, needless to say, Smith&Wesson got their ass kicked. They were pissed about it, so the big wigs at Smith&Wesson pushed their engineers hard for a new pistol that could compete with Glock. The engineers at Smith&Wesson were convinced that the new plastic pistols were a fad. It would never catch on in the U.S., just like the internet. Actual quote from one of my sources: "The gun is uglier than a sack full of assholes. Who would want it? It's plastic." Smith&Wesson's leadership...
Everybody.
Exactly.
Everybody that has an asshole wanted it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Smith&Wesson's leadership disagreed with this. And on one day, the CEO had finally had it with their engineers and product development teams and stated, "If you can't come up with a better handgun than the Glock, then copy the motherfucker." That is an exact quote. They just said,
And they
copy
did.
it.
They tried.
And so the Smith&Wesson Sigma
Wait.
was born.
Question, what gen... Do they have Gen 2 Glock 22s?
You know, I don't know the answer to that.
Or is that Gen 3s?
Don't know.
The reason I bring that up, because I find this ironic. If it was the Gen 3, if Glock just let go of their Gen 3 patent, and now everybody
Oh, yeah.
is making their own version of a Gen 3 Glock.
Yeah.
Palmetto.
Yep.
What's the other one?
Well, there was...
Shadow Systems
Yep,
or whatever.
that's true. Shadow Systems.
And a couple other people. They're making their versions of Glock Gen 3s because
Yeah.
their patents ran out.
There's metal frames now.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because if they got on the Gen 3 patent infringement, I find that hilarious.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I couldn't really find... a lot of this story came from somebody who worked in Smith&Wesson's marketing team at the time. So she was in a lot of these meetings. And
Those had to be some fun meetings.
yeah, I couldn't imagine.
Stuff thrown against the
What'd you find out?
wall.
Josh, what did you find out?
I was just looking up for the Glock. It was the Glock 22, right?
Correct.
One about the Gen. It looks like Gen 2. It said Gen 2, 1988 to 1997.
That would make sense
Yeah.
to me.
Which, I mean, I think they gave up the Gen 2 patent too.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure of that. But
Yeah.
who's going to patent a frame without a rail on it?
Well, I'm sure the Gen 2 and Gen 3 patents are kind of, what do they change?
True. Very true. Yeah.
If you really wanted to add a whale, it wouldn't have been hard to add a whale.
People do it to Gen 2s. They can solder in rails in the dust cover.
I'm not sure I would do that. You had a Gen 2, didn't you, for a while?
I have one in my duffel bag upstairs.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no clue what the ghetto blaster is, to be honest with you.
Pretty sure it's a Gen 2.
Gen 3, I thought.
Is it a 3?
I think so.
You bought that from the gun show in Columbus, and it was like different colors, wasn't it? Was
No,
that you?
I thought you said a dog chewed on it or something.
Yeah,
No,
that definitely happened.
my first Glock I ever had was I found somebody that was willing to go to a gas station, trade. Oh, we probably need to cut this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So obviously, Glock wasn't going to just take this line down. They filed a lawsuit within months of the release of the Sigma. Smith&Wesson, of course, claimed that this was completely insane and accused them of copyright infringement. But Glock persisted, and the whole situation was settled out of court. Now, the details of this lawsuit are pretty murky. To my knowledge, it was never officially released, but here's what I was able to find on the dark web in the comment sections of Pornhub. Allegedly, Smith&Wesson paid Glock somewhere between $5 and $8 million. And had to modify the sear and trigger bar mechanism. Legend has it, this modification is why the trigger on the Sigma was so bad. Even today's SDVEs, which is based heavily on the original design of the Sigma, that trigger still isn't that great. It's not bad. It's not great. Again, that's going to trigger a lot of people in the comments section for sure. So I almost bought a Sigma as my first gun. True story.
Same.
Was working for Gander Mountain. I was about to turn 21, and the store owner was like, "You can't buy it, but you can put it on layaway." So I was back there trying to pick one out, and I was like, it was like $250. And I was like, yeah, I want this one.
It was a good deal.
Right. And the gun owner was like, you work, or the gun counter guy was like, you work here, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you want to work back in the gun counter, right? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, you buy that gun, you're going to stay at the cash register forever.
Oh,
I was
jeez.
like, okay.
I wish somebody would have said that to me.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it, and then I bought a used Gen 2 17 for
Better.
my first hang. No, I'm sorry, I take it back. I bought a P226 in a parking lot when I threw it after I turned 21.
Yeah, legally. of
Legally,
course.
instead of how that is legal.
Yeah, instead of how that's absolutely legal.
My first handgun was the SDVE 40.
My God.
The reason I went with 40 was because Kaiho
Of
made a
course.
big deal that he had a 40 and that we could share ammo and bulk order ammo.
That's such a Kaiho thing to say.
That is such
That's such a, I'm going to get my friend to help me save money. What? If he ever watches this, we're on to you, Kaiho. We know. We know.
Wait, also, can I say, if he watches this, I've never seen anyone stick their ass out so much to shoot. It's almost erotic, okay?
God.
He used to shoot in full, like, squat.
Hey, if you liked what you just saw, we do have full episodes on our YouTube channel that you can watch. We also have an email address that you can contact us at. It's rifledmedia@gmail.com. Send us an email. We would love to hear from you. Give us some feedback. Maybe leave us an idea for a topic you'd like us to cover. Also, if it's a really cool piece of information or just a really funny email, I will happily read it here on one of our episodes. So thanks for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we cannot wait to have you here next time.